The top 10 countries with the highest national debt in 2025. Debt, a word that makes your bank app freeze, your heartbeat skip, and your brain whisper, maybe I should have gone into crypto early. Now imagine that feeling, but for entire countries. Welcome to the world of national debt, where governments owe so much money they could make even your uncle who borrowed $20,000 in 2019 and never returned it look responsible. In 2025, global debt is so massive it deserves its own Marvel villain origin story. Countries are borrowing excessively, creatively, and with questionable repayment plans. Today, we're counting down the top 10 countries with the highest national debt in 2025 using real data and rounding everything to the nearest million USD. And trust me, some of these numbers will make your calculator cry. Strap in, grab a cup of something strong, and let's dive in from number 10 all the way to number 1, where the heavyweight champion of "we owe how much?" awaits. Number 10. Brazil. Region, South America. Debt as a percent of GDP 2025, 63.91%. Debt per capita 2025, $7,056. National debt, $1.8 trillion. Brazil, the land of samba, football magic, carnival, and debt that could buy every football club in the Premier League and still leave enough change to build 10 more Christ the Redeemers. With a national debt sitting at $1.8 trillion, Brazil doesn't have the highest debt on this list, but it's still a major player in the global borrowing league. At nearly 64% of GDP, Brazil's debt load comes from decades of economic swings, political turbulence, inflation battles, and government programs designed to support a massive population. What's interesting? Brazil's debt per capita, $7,056, is relatively low compared to others, which shows how population size spreads the burden. But that doesn't make the bill any lighter. It's still a big, booming economy wrestling with structural challenges. If national debts had a World Cup, Brazil would at least reach the quarterfinals. Number 9. Canada. Region, North America. Debt as percent of GDP 2025, 136.08%. Debt per capita 2025, $76,474. National debt, $2.3 trillion. Canada. Polite people, clean cities, free healthcare, and a national debt that is anything but polite. At 136% of GDP, Canada owes more than its entire yearly economic output. That's like having a salary of $50,000 and owing $68,000 and saying, "We're fine, eh?" Their $2.3 trillion national debt ballooned from pandemic spending, housing market challenges, social programs, and major federal infrastructure commitments. But the shocking part, the debt per capita, $76,474, is one of the highest per person on this entire list. Canadians are known for apologizing for everything. If national debts could talk, Canada's would probably say, "Sorry, we didn't mean to grow this big." Number 8. Germany. Region, Europe. Debt as a percent of GDP 2025, 144.6%. Debt per capita 2025, $85,266. National debt, $2.8 trillion. Germany, Europe's economic locomotive, efficient, industrial, disciplined, and home to the Autobahn, where apparently their national debt also speeds with no limits. With $2.8 trillion in national debt, Germany sits at 144.6% of GDP, meaning it owes almost 1.5 times what its economy produces in a year. This debt is tied to industrial investments, energy transitions after cutting Russian supplies, supporting the EU economy, and stabilizing its massive industrial sector. But here's the kicker. Germany's debt per capita is jaw-droppingly high. That means if the bill came tomorrow, every German, including babies, would owe the equivalent of a new luxury Mercedes-Benz. Well, at least they build great cars. 7. India. Region, Asia. Debt as percent of GDP 2025, 16.66%. Debt per capita 2025, $504. National debt, $3 trillion. India is the plot twist of this entire list.
A national debt of $3 trillion, but only 16.66% debt to GDP, which is extremely low compared to Europe and North America. The secret? A massive population. India has over 1.4 billion people, so even a multi-trillion debt spreads thinly across households, resulting in the lowest per capita debt here, just $504. That's the cost of a mid-range smartphone. India's debt comes from infrastructure expansion, defense upgrades, digital transformation, and long-term development projects. But because its economy is growing rapidly, the debt burden remains manageable. In simple terms, India has a big wallet and a bigger future, so lenders trust it. 6. Italy. Region, Europe. Debt as percent of GDP 2025, 118.99%. Debt per capita 2025, $49,635. National debt, $3.1 trillion. Italy is the land of pizza, art, fashion, and a national debt layered thicker than a lasagna. At $3.1 trillion, Italy's debt has been high for decades due to slow economic growth, a rapidly aging population, and heavy public spending. With 118.99% debt to GDP, Italy owes more than its yearly productivity. Not the worst in Europe, but definitely on the heavy side. A debt per capita of $49,635 is also nothing to smile about. Italy has consistently struggled to balance its budget, but here's the twist. It's still too important to Europe to fail. As long as the world needs Ferrari, Gucci, Espresso, and the Vatican, Italy will always be supported economically. 5. France. Region, Europe. Debt as percent of GDP 2025, 249.57%. Debt per capita 2025, $119,450. National debt, $3.4 trillion. France's debt numbers should come with dramatic background music. 249.57% of GDP. France owes almost 2.5 times what its economy generates in a year. That's like earning $40,000 per year and owing $100,000 plus interest. With a $3.4 trillion national debt and $119,450 per capita, France ranks among the most indebted nations on Earth. Why so high? Expensive social welfare programs, public sector spending, economic stagnation, pension reforms, and huge government commitments. France runs one of the most generous social systems in the world. Healthcare, welfare, unemployment benefits, paid leave. But generosity comes at a cost. Still, as a global cultural powerhouse, France has enormous soft power. People aren't visiting Paris for low debt. They're coming for the Eiffel Tower, croissants, and overpriced perfume. 4. United Kingdom. Region, Europe. Debt as percent of GDP 2025, 293.4%. Debt per capita 2025, $152,271. National debt, $3.4 trillion. The UK said France, hold my tea, because if France's debt is dramatic, the UK's is a full Netflix series. With 293.4% debt to GDP, Britain owes nearly 3 times its annual economic output. This is one of the highest ratios in the developed world. Their $3.4 trillion debt matches France's, but the per capita debt? A jaw-crushing $152,271, the highest per person on this entire list. Why? Post-Brexit economic shocks, high government borrowing, cost of living crisis response, pandemic aftermath, and declining productivity. The UK's economic history is full of resilience, wars, recessions, industrial decline, but 2025's numbers show a country still navigating tough financial waters. At this point, even the king's crown might be considering a side hustle.
3. Japan. Region, Asia. Debt as percent of GDP, 2025, 105.59%. Debt per capita, 2025, $37,502. National debt, $10.9 trillion. Japan is famous for futuristic technology, anime, sushi,
and a national debt large enough to fund colonies on the moon. At $10.9 trillion, Japan ranks among the world's heaviest borrowers. But strangely, its 105.59% debt to GDP isn't as terrifying as Europe's ratios. Japan's economy is huge, meaning the country can carry more debt without collapsing. Much of Japan's debt is also held domestically, making it more stable than externally financed debts. The issue? Japan has the oldest population in the world. That means more pension spending, fewer workers, and slow economic growth. Yet, Japan remains one of the safest economies on Earth. Lenders literally fight to loan Japan money. That's economic superstar privilege. 2. China. Region, Asia. Debt as percent of GDP, 2025, 12.88%. Debt per capita, 2025, $1,787. National debt, $15 trillion. China's position is fascinating. At $15 trillion, China holds the title of the second highest national debt on the entire planet, a jaw-dropping figure by any standard. But here's the twist that shocks economists and confuses everyone else. All that debt adds up to only 12.88% of China's GDP. Read that again. While European nations are out here posting debt ratios that look like Wi-Fi passwords, China's debt to GDP figure is surprisingly tiny. Why? Because China's economic engine is absolutely gigantic. With a GDP topping $17 trillion, China produces so much, from electronics to steel to global infrastructure, that even trillions of dollars in borrowing barely dent the overall ratio. It's like a giant elephant carrying a backpack. The load is heavy, but the elephant barely notices. China also doesn't borrow recklessly. Its borrowing is highly intentional, designed to expand the country's long-term dominance. Massive infrastructure megaprojects, highways, bridges, smart cities, and high-speed rail networks that make some Western systems look outdated. The Belt and Road Initiative, China's global economic web stretching across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Manufacturing expansion, keeping China as the factory of the world, and technological investments. AI, semiconductors, green energy, robotics, and military modernization. Now here's the part that really puts things into perspective. China's per capita debt, just $1,787, is shockingly low. That's because the country's enormous population spreads the debt thin like butter across an enormous loaf of bread. It makes China's citizens some of the least burdened on this list, at least individually. So what you get is a fascinating paradox. China is a borrowing giant, capable of taking on huge financial commitments, yet somehow remains a debt-to-GDP lightweight. It's a combination so rare that global economists still argue about how sustainable or unbeatable this strategy might be. China's economic model is proof that when your economy is big enough, powerful enough, and fast enough, even trillions can start to look small.
Number 1. United States. Region, North America. Debt as a percentage of GDP in 2025, 88.45%. Debt per capita in 2025, $75,852. National debt, $38 trillion. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of global debt, the United States of America, the land of Hollywood blockbusters, Silicon Valley billionaires, Wall Street wolves, and a national debt so massive it makes other countries look like they're borrowing lunch money. $38 trillion. Go ahead, read it again. Your eyes didn't glitch. That number is so enormous, it practically needs its own time zone, zip code, security detail, and maybe a motivational speaker. What powers such a financial monster? America runs on world-class spending, the kind that requires a seatbelt. Military spending that could fund entire continents. Social security checks going to millions every month. Medicare, because healthcare isn't cheap. Tax deficits, because the math is mathing, but not enough. Global leadership roles that demand deep pockets. And constant borrowing to keep the wheels of the world's largest economy spinning at full speed. At 88.45% of GDP, it's almost funny. America's debt ratio isn't even the worst on this list. The UK and France are out there sprinting laps around everyone in percentage terms. But when it comes to total dollar amount, the US is in a league of its own.
A league so exclusive that even Elon Musk would look at these numbers and whisper, "Bro, chill." And then there's the $75,852 per capita burden, one of the highest in the world. That means every newborn American enters the world already owing enough to buy a Tesla. But here's the plot twist. The US dollar is still the world's reserve currency, which gives America a superpower no other country enjoys. It can borrow huge amounts without triggering a national heart attack. Investors treat US debt like gold, safe, reliable, and always in demand.
Still, $38 trillion?
That's enough to buy every NBA team, every NFL franchise, every Premier League club, every luxury yacht in Monaco, and still have spare change to purchase a couple of planets if NASA ever puts them on sale. Debt is a strange thing. For individuals, it's a headache. For countries, it's a lifestyle. Some nations manage it like a disciplined diet. Others treat it like a cheat day that lasts 10 years. But one thing is clear. Global finance runs on borrowing, spending, investing, and hoping tomorrow's GDP will be big enough to pay for today's decisions. These top 10 countries, from Brazil to the United States, remind us that debt doesn't define strength. What matters is how a nation uses it to grow, innovate, and shape the future. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of trillion-dollar IOUs, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because more mind-blowing global breakdowns are coming your way.